Hey kiddos, this is section 5.4, standard form of linear equations. So, taking a quick look, where are the x and y intercepts? Well, the x-intercept is where the graph crosses the x-axis, so that's going to be here. And the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis, which is going to be right here. So to answer this question, the x-intercept is 3, 0, and the y-intercept is -4, 0, -4. So here's kind of a summary going into this. So there's 3 ways to graph a line. The t-chart is not the quickest. We only use that when we're not familiar with the functions, but we should be familiar with these. Slope-intercept method, we begin with the y-intercept, and the m tells us how to move. And then if you're given standard form, it's easiest to find the intercepts, like I'm going to do on the next slide. An alternative method would be to convert it to y equals mx plus b. You can also do that. Unless the question asks for both intercepts, then you're going to want to do what's happening in the following slides. So a standard form is when we rearrange it to be written like this: number times x plus a number times y equals a number, where a, b, and c are real numbers, typically always integers. In fact, we're going to write a as a positive integer. So a will always be positive. B might have to be negative. Standard form allows you to easily find the x and y intercepts. So to do that, what you're going to do is set, when you're on an axis, one of your coordinate values is 0. So as soon as it says to find the x and y intercepts, I want you to automatically think of this: a point where the x is 0 and a point where the y is 0. You don't even need to know which is the x and y, which is the x and which is the y, because once you plot them, it's going to be obvious which is which. All right, so we have a problem here. I'm going to instantly make that little graphic. Now, setting x equal to 0 is this one here. So what that does, it means I plug a 0 in for x. Well, if I plug 0 in, it basically eliminates that term. So I can just pretend it's not there, cover it up. Now I'm going to solve the equation 4y equals 8. Well, if I divide both sides by 4, it gives me y equals 2. That gives me a point on the line. Anytime I plug in one of the coordinates and solve for the other, it gives me a point on the line, which is right there. I'm going to similarly get the x-intercept. So I'm going to plug 0 in for y. That eliminates that term, so I'm solving x equals 8. That's already solved, so x equals 8. Not an ideal graph for graphing this, but it's approximately right there. Connect the 2 dots, and that gives you the graph of the equation. So another example here. Now it says using the x and y intercepts, so I instantly make that little setup with the 2 points, one with x is 0 and one with y is 0. So plugging in x equals 0 eliminates that term. Don't forget there's still a negative in there. Whoops-a-daisy. Sorry. Shucks. Well, I don't have time to re-record it, so you're going to have to deal with it. So divide both sides by -6, and we get a -3 for the y. So we plot that. All right, solving for the x-intercept, I plug 0 in for y. So then I'm solving 9x equals 18, which means I get a 2 there. Plot that point. And then I'm going to continue the pattern and connect the dots. So notice it went up 3, forward 2. I continued that pattern as much as I could fit on the grid. And there you go. So if I'm going to graph this, the x is like 1x, which is like a 1 over 1x. So I'm going to just use my standard, or my typical, start with the y-intercept, use the slope, graph the line. So now I can see the x and y intercepts. So we know the y-intercept from this equation is -4. If I wanted to know the x-intercept, I just have to remember that's when y equals 0. So if I didn't have a graph, what I would do is I would plug 0 in for y, and I would get 0 equals x minus 4. Solving for x, I'd get x equals 4. X equals 4, and that would tell me that the point 4, 0 is my x-intercept. That's how you do it algebraically. You just put a 0 in for the y and solve for x. Is that it? Nope. So don't forget how to graph these. x equals 3 is when all the x values are 3. So that's going to be a vertical line. Similarly, when y equals number, it's when the y values are all -2. So there you go. All right, see you next class.